On Saturday, November 2nd, starting at noon, Kevin Williams is helping sick kids by playing video games. He needs your help to raise $1,000 for the CHIO Foundation. Donate at extra-life.org/participants/347875.
Hey guys, I'm Jen. I'm a gamer, a photographer, and a longtime wrestling fan. Wrestling, especially women's wrestling, has truly evolved over time and is bigger than ever. I'm here to give my take on the world of wrestling, be it women, men, or whatever else is on my mind. Because if women in wrestling are being heard more, shouldn't women in wrestling podcasts be too? Welcome to Women Crush Wrestling! What's up, everybody? I'm here with my boy Adam. Well, I'm just Jenny and I'm here with my boy Adam. Messed up.
That's all right. I'm here. The chaos reigns free when I'm here. It's fine.
You're pretty, you got big boobs, and those soap writers didn't count on you having brains, am I right?
That is a quote for Drew.
Somebody noticed. I've been doing how many episodes with you and you never complimented me.
Big boobs.
On my brain. Oh.
What show is this?
Women Crush Wrestling.
That's right, yeah. Hey, everybody. We're doing things a little different this week.
Obviously.
Clearly.
My brain is not good.
So we talked about this a little bit on last week's episode. We're reviewing the latter half of Glow Season 3. We did the first 5 episodes on Ropes to Reels and Eggs. Speaking of Ropes to Reels...
Hey, I'm here. Also, when you said latter half, I thought you said ladder.
Same.
And I thought, wow, wrestling is just on his brain 24/7.
Well, that is true.
That's why I giggled.
Anyway, from Ropes to Reels, it's Sir F Word.
So if you guys want to catch up with us before we jump into episodes 5 through 10 on the 3rd season, and you're like, what the heck are they talking about? Go listen to this week's episode of Ropes to Reels. Maybe some of, we'll rub off a little bit here, and then we can go get some double numbers here, which would be nice.
What? Oh, listeners, got it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. That thing we're trying to do here. Okay. Should we just jump right in?
I think so, because the last one we talked about was like the big reveal of Bash saying, I'm going to do what I want, don't care what y'all think.
Yeah.
And then we go into the next episode, which honestly is my favorite.
Okay.
You said the Switcheroo episode was yours.
Freaky Tuesday, yes.
The desert episode is mine.
Let's talk about it. Outward Bound, episode 6 of Glow. A camping trip in the desert canyons outside Vegas spirals into a night of soul-searching, bitter showdowns, and bombshell revelations. Okay, let's talk about it then. Drew, why is it your favorite episode?
Because it finally focuses on the side characters. A lot of the big problem of this season thus far is they try to pack everything together and it's just muddled. Like, did you remember that Melanie what is her name? No, it is Melanie. I nailed it. Melanie is having this kind of relationship with a prostitute. Like,
yeah, Melrose.
Whatever.
I don't know. I know her by her gimmick. Sorry.
No, I was talking about I thought you knew the prostitute's name. I have no idea. But anyway, like, they had this thing that lasted maybe 15 minutes and is never brought up again until this episode. Like, a lot of the side characters are just kind of thrown to the wayside. Whereas this episode finally gives us a chance to develop these. Like, Sheila gets a huge development. So does the relationship between Arthi and Yolanda, as does the relationship between Melanie and Jenny. Like, everybody gets their time to shine. Tammy even gets some really worthwhile development. Honestly, I would have cut Debbie and Ruth throughout this entire episode. They got lost in the woods and they don't return till later. I wish the whole episode was devoted to these side characters.
You're nodding your head a lot, Jen, so I assume you agree. Is this also your favorite episode?
No. It's not. It's my second, but it's not my favorite. Okay. No, I do really agree, because you have the show about all these girls, but the focus is always on Ruth and Debbie, and then they just don't care about their other characters. And you saw tension with Melrose and Jenny, and then they just never really brought it up until this episode, which was nice, because then it explains why. I
think what you just said about having the attention on Debbie and Ruth is maybe the biggest problem with this season, because I feel like my biggest issue with this season is Ruth does nothing. She does nothing this season. And she is the pivotal character. Her and Debbie are the anchors of this show. Like, they're the foundation of it. Debbie has a little bit more to do, but the way her whole story ends for the last episode just royally ticked me off. And we'll get to that when we get to this 10th episode. My biggest problem is that Ruth does nothing to further her character, nothing to develop her story. But because she's one of the foundations, they feel like they have to do something with her in these episodes. And I feel like it would have been better if they maybe let her go to the wayside a little bit in this season, if they didn't have something for her. Obviously, the better option would be do some better writing for her, but they just couldn't in this episode. And so instead, her big problem is that she's got man troubles, which I think is...
Show of hands, Russell should have gone away in like episode 1?
I don't have a problem with Russell. I honestly don't. Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with her having man troubles because that's a part of life. Relationship problems are a thing. My problem is that was her major obstacle to overcome this season. And if you think about her progression, it is such a huge step backwards. First season, her whole thing was about, I'm going to go and take over these male-dominated industries and really make my mark as a woman in this world. Cool. Second season is about her being like, well, I can't be the star, but you know what? I'm going to take a step forward and maybe do a little bit more backstage and kind of direct and be a leader for these girls and show some more empowerment. Great. Third season, I got man problems.
Yeah, she's not a leader in any sort. I don't think there even is a leader when it comes to the ensemble anymore. There's no real anchor. I mean, there's a throwaway line about Carmen being the anchor, but she does very little to hammer that in.
Carmen's story should have been Ruth's story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because Ruth and Carmen essentially have the same problem, which is, I'm sick of doing the same thing over and over again. I need to grow. But where Carmen is like, I'm actually going to make a decision about this very last minute. Again, we'll get there when we get to the last episode. You had a rant on Ropes to Reels. Just wait till we get to the last episode. But Ruth, again, her thing is, do I pick Russell or do I pick Sam? Like, when that's your storyline, your character has just taken a huge nosedive when she was supposed to be this empowering symbol for the first 2 seasons. So, didn't mean to go on a rant on that, but that's my biggest problem with this season is that Ruth is wasted. So I would have rathered that if you're not going to do something good with her, leave her aside and give some more characters some other time, like they tried to do last season. Sorry, didn't mean to rant.
And bringing back to your wrestling thing, how I wanted wrestling to play a bigger part in this story. Like, if we want Ruth and Carmen to do something, maybe they're the bookers. Maybe they're the one that actually plan and create the show each night together.
Bash loses interest because he's off schmoozing and hobnobbing with people. Sam's concerned with his daughter, Justine, and everything. Yeah, I agree. That would have been awesome.
Debbie's doing like the behind the scenes producing. So like the show itself, give that to Ruth and Carmen and maybe have some of the other stories. Like, while I love what they did with Artie and Yolanda in that desert episode, something that always just bugged me is like, why didn't we have maybe a tag team match of Fortune Cookie and Melrose against their characters? I can't remember. Junk Chain is Yolanda, and I can't remember what Arthi is.
Yeah.
Well, she's the
terrorist.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she had a name, but so I'm so sorry. But have it be like a tag team match, and maybe that match was terrible because both of them could not get over their tag team partners. Like, maybe there were some hard tags where it's like, ow, why did you slap me so hard? I don't know, just something that
wouldn't work though. Now they're both heels. That's just bad booking.
Sure. I know everything is wrestling, but this is storytelling. But I don't know, maybe have the fortune. I don't know.
I've just busted your chops, Drew. Don't worry.
You chopped them down.
But do you see what I mean, though? If they had like a little bit more build to it and maybe actually incorporated wrestling, they could tell a lot with just physical actions instead of just, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, this is how, maybe have it, just tell the story a little bit more before just dropping the bombshell.
I gotta tell you, the idea of Debbie and Ruth kind of butting heads backstage over booking directions as opposed to producing would have been real interesting. They could have did a whole like Vince McMahon thing where Debbie's just like, well, I'm the boss, and Ruth's like the booker, and she's just like, yeah, but I'm choosing how this kind of goes thing. And then Carmen comes in and she's like, yeah, but I'm the wrestling head. I know I'm the agent. I know how this works. Like, you could really do something with that. Yeah. I would have loved seeing that.
Right. It just means bringing wrestling into a show, surprisingly, that has wrestling in the frickin' title.
What did you think, Jen? Like the Canyon episode. Let's go back to that because that's what we're talking about.
Well, I liked it for the side, like, development of the smaller characters, I guess they are.
I want to talk a little bit now, Drew. I don't know. Do you identify as any sort of minority group religiously or anything like that?
God, no, I am a generic white man in Canada.
Right. So am I, right? Now, Jen, I don't know about your kind of background in terms of religion and whatnot, but you do belong to a quote-unquote minority group, even though women are 51% of the population. So I'll feel like a lot of the focus in this episode was about underrepresented people and them having not as much freedom to talk about the issues that they face as an unrepresented people. Did you kind of feel anything like towards that at all? Like, am I reading this completely wrong? Like, what's your take on that?
No, I kind of felt like it was like that. I didn't know Jenny was Vietnamese.
I think she's Vietnamese.
Yeah, because
it was Vietnamese. That was the big reveal.
Yeah, because I didn't know she was that until she started talking, and then
no one did. That was the whole. Everybody just assumed she was Asian.
Yeah, it's true. Because like me and my husband were like, "What war was she talking about?" And we're trying to think of what happened close to this time, and the only thing that we could think of was Vietnam. So then we're like, "Oh, she's Vietnamese."
What was the Korean War?
That was the 60s.
Was it the 60s? Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know my history. Apologies.
So it was nice to see them keeping it relevant, but talking about, I guess, an issue that would have been big back then.
I will say this: like, I liked the episode. Like, I did not enjoy it. Sorry for the double negative. I did like it, and I liked it because I felt like this was an episode where they were touching on and tackling a lot of issues that people could probably relate to and feel representative in, which is good. And I like the fact that the girls were bonding again. We didn't see a lot of that in this season, and I felt like it was some of the better stuff of the first and second seasons, was seeing these girls grow together, become friends, form their bonds. Now, obviously, in the case of Yolanda and Artie, we have a scene where their bond's kind of broken, which is interesting. And see, this is a tough scene for me because I'm not part of that community. I'm an ally in the LGBTQ community, but I don't know anything about it. So it's hard for me to put myself in that position and say like, oh, okay, that's what it's really like. But, you know, I don't know. That scene really stood out for me as something really interesting. This idea of like, wow, that must be a really tough struggle to have somebody as a partner who is either self-loathing or embarrassed about who they are and whatnot. And of course, it's really interesting to contrast that with Bash, who is completely denying that part of his personality, right? And here we have somebody in Artie who's getting there, but is still not quite ready yet. So it's just fascinating to me.
But those are very common issues for even today. But back then, it was, you had to hide it.
Yeah, it was
because
even worse.
People didn't accept it. Yeah. And you were taught that something was wrong with you if you didn't follow the norm.
What did you think of, like, what's her face is one of the biddies kind of had a little bit of a heel turn. Kind of proves that she's not.
Well, the thing is, she's of the time,
or very, very ignorant. Stacey had a little bit of a heel turn.
She's also of the time. It's not like she hates them. It's just that was just kind of the thinking back then. It wasn't a heel turn. It's just, she's a normal person, and it wasn't.
You know what the funny thing is, though? She herself, the actress, feels it was a heel turn.
Well, yeah. She said if it happened in 2010, then yes, it would have been, because we've grown since then. But at the time, it's perfectly understandable for her character to think that. It's not like she then betrays them or tries to overshadow them or directly like calls her a B word. I don't know what your language rules are on this show, but like it really outright brings her down, right? She's just of the normal thinking of that community at that time.
Okay, interesting. Anything else to talk about for the...
I got two things.
Yeah.
So again, I wanted wrestling to feature a much bigger role in this because at this moment, okay, first off, how many of these women researched wrestling, right? How in the blue hell do you not know who Bobby the Brain Heenan is? All right? At that time, he was cute. Anyway, they're talking about...
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, Tammy, you can't go in the ring anymore. Like, you're going to hurt yourself. Let's make you a manager. Why did we not see Welfare Queen as a manager? That would have been amazing.
I was hoping for that,
right? Awesome Kong. All she does is cut promos on the side of the ring, try and help. I don't know. Who was she with? Was she with
She didn't really have herself aligned with anybody.
Then align her with the Viking. I hate names. I can never remember her name. But she played the Viking character, and she hiked up with Sheila. I'll get to that one in a second because that's my other point. But just to have Welfare Queen as a manager, why did that never happen? That was such a good tease. I would have loved to see that. But again, another thing like the bulimia, thrown to the wayside.
Yeah, I was disappointed with
good ideas, just not grasped.
Nothing executed.
This is why that's the problem with binge TV. Is with week to week, you're able to figure out what works and then build on it. That's why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has gone on for 7 seasons. Because if the entire season 1 happened, it would have been canceled. But since Winter Soldier happened halfway through that season, it bombarded it into a great spectacle of a show. I know that's like the third time I've brought up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But when you have stuff like this where you have no feedback until after it's over, you have to do repercussions afterwards.
I understand what you're saying. I would say get a better example for next time because that's kind of a rare situation.
Where, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? That's the perfect example.
Using season 1 to say there was a major motion picture that allowed it to change completely in the middle of the season.
No, but that's because that's a big thing that happens. See, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is totally built upon the fact that they're Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But if you're part of a grander universe and all of a sudden there's a movie that comes out that, oh, by the way, S.H.I.E.L.D. is now destroyed. If that came out beforehand, you wouldn't have been able to have that little bit of a twist halfway through.
Sure, I understand that, but I think the point you were making, which is doing a series week to week, allows you to see what works and what doesn't and change the direction accordingly. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had that planned out before the first season even started. So you can't even point to that as an example to say,
okay,
here's
fine.
the way of doing it properly.
Better. Parks and Rec.
There you
Halfway
go.
through the first season of Parks and Rec, they realized it was just a clone of The Office, so then they twisted it around for the finale, and then for subsequently the season 2.
Much better.
Better example for you?
Much better. Thank
Cool.
you.
Now the second point would be Sheila. We haven't brought up her big reveal this episode, which is she no longer needs that identity to protect her. She finally feels comfortable enough in her own skin that she literally burns that outfit. She walks up to the fire right in front of Ruth and just throws it on the flame, and it finally is liberated. This is after the conversation with Bobby a little bit later. If you want to know my rant about Bobby, listen to the Ropes to Reels and how it could have been a much grander thing. But she finally comes to terms with who she is, and it's such a great moment in the show.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it. Like I said, I liked it. I thought it was very good. Any other thoughts on Outward Bound?
No.
Okay. Episode 7, Hollywood Homecoming. Sam takes Justine to meet with studio executives and has a heart attack. Birdie arrives in Las Vegas to spend time with her new daughter-in-law, and Debbie makes a new friend, Tex. We're going to talk about him later. Okay. I like this episode. I'll give this episode a thumbs up. I liked it. I thought it was good. I liked watching Sam and Justine go around Hollywood together. I thought that was a fun little departure from what we've been sitting through. Sam's heart attack was a big moment in this show. I don't know if it's going to play up a little bit later, but it felt really big at the time that I watched it. Thoughts on the Justine Sam stuff going through Hollywood?
I enjoyed another behind the scenes look. That's what this show had going for it. Because Glow is such a spectacle to watch on screen. It was so bonkers, so out of there. To see the behind the scenes is something you don't quite see a lot of. So when they go to the executive, see how a movie pitch is made, see the different types of producers that want to change stuff up, that was interesting. And also, the negativity of Sam comes right at the forefront, always insulting, always saying, oh, we're good, and insulting a Buddhist. Granted, I don't know if he was actual Buddhist because
he seemed like a Hollywood Buddhist.
He was a Hollywood Buddhist. But seeing the behind the scenes angle was pretty cool, and the build for him and Justine's relationship of even though they've been away for what did they say, like a year and a half at this point? Yeah, I think it was a year and a half. They've been away for that long. They come back. It's just they're back together. There wasn't they didn't have to reconcile anything. It was just we're back to our usual back and forth of kind of insulting each other playfully.
Thoughts on the Justine Sam stuff in this episode, Jen?
I really liked it, and then I kind of liked it too how when the one guy was shooting down Sam, she came to his defense. It kind of showed like there's still that father and daughter bond.
Yeah.
And I actually really liked that he kind of went to the hospital alone. Because that's something he would have
it's
done.
Totally in his character.
Yeah.
Completely in his character to do it.
Yeah.
I hated him for it. I was just like, you stupid man. Yeah. Just, God, stop being so damn pig-headed and stubborn.
Yeah.
Of course, that's the desired reaction that you want from him. Because you want... Sam is one of, I think, the best characters in this season, in this series. Unfortunately, again, I don't think he grows as much as he could have in this season, but... You genuinely, he's kind of like BoJack Horseman, to quote another Netflix series, in that he's genuinely a broken person and you hate him because he's so terrible at times, but there's just enough to like about him that you really genuinely want to see him do better and succeed if he just wouldn't be his own worst enemy.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you've never seen BoJack Horseman? We should sit down and watch that sometime. You don't like it, but I like
No, I love BoJack Horseman, but that's not a fun show.
No, it isn't a fun show, but I do like that. But I enjoy it, though.
Oh, it is very well written. One of the most well written shows I've ever seen. But man, you have to be in a mindset to watch that one.
It can be a bit of a bummer, so to speak. But again, that's why I make the comparison because Sam is a bit of a bummer.
I didn't see where you were going when you started up, but as soon as you wrapped it up, I agree.
All right, let's talk about Birdie. Coming in to meet with Rhonda. This was kind of fun. I liked this.
So in between season 2 and season 3, I watched Weeds.
Yeah.
And oh my God. I hate her character in Weeds. I hated her so much. And then she just kind of come up here and I had a little bit of resentment still for Celia. So I just hated her from the go-get because I'm like, you screwed with... I can't remember her name. Nancy. Screwed with Nancy too many
Apparently
times.
Our big kryptonite is names.
I told you right off the bat. I'll remember a face until the day. I knew she was from Weeds immediately, but I couldn't tell you what her terrible names.
What'd you think of the stuff with Birdie and Rhonda, Jen?
I didn't really like it.
Oh, really?
No.
Why?
I don't know. I just really didn't. I understand Bash's character needed to be like a heel and he had to fight with himself and stuff like that. I don't know. I think Rhonda was just kind of
a tool.
Yeah.
She was a tool for Bash. Yeah. She wasn't actually allowed to build. They were just developing her as something to help Bash, right? That was her whole thing. It's like she loves him, but she wants to be there. Like, he can't do a checkbook. That's why I'm here. It's like, okay, so you're not Yolanda. You're Bash's wife.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that it did serve a couple of purposes. I don't necessarily think they were for the greater good, but I do think they serve some purposes.
Well, I don't think... Okay, if your mom is really rich and snotty, I don't think she would like her like that. Like, they made it seem like she accepted her right away after they went shopping, and I wasn't expecting it.
I think that it reveals a lot about the character, which is that Bash's mom does care about him and does love him, but she has no way to express it whatsoever. They're a very cold, cut-off family. So even though she sees through exactly what's happening with their marriage, she sees that Rhonda genuinely cares for him. And like you said, the stuff about, like, I take care of the checkbooks. I take care of Bash is basically what she's saying. And her mother is saying, like, I was always afraid that, well, probably what she was fearing deep down inside is the truth, which is that Bash is gay. But Yolanda can take care of, or Rhonda can take care of him. And she's accepting of that. She never really kind of believed, I think, that Bash would find somebody that would love him. And I think that she knows deep down Rhonda doesn't love him, but she cares about him enough that she's willing to be responsible with him and genuinely take care of him. And I think that's her giving the money to them is to show that she does care about Bash, but this is really the only way that she can express it, by kind of giving her blessing to this marriage. And B, it's so that he has enough money to buy the TV station at the end of the season. It's really all it is. Their interactions are to serve a purpose, less character driven and more, how do we get to point B?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate a waste. Again, I like the interaction between Rhonda and Birdie. I thought they had good chemistry. I enjoyed watching those two interact on screen together, but a bit of a waste.
Same can be said with Debbie and Tex, too. All of their interaction this episode was just to set up what happened later, which Adam can audibly tell you is he doesn't like, but we're going to get there. This is just a simple, episode was just set up. And the main focus was Justine and Sam, which had a great moment of the shot in the hospital where nobody is there for him, and that's his own fault.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, though. I kind of have an interest. I don't necessarily know that I agree with that kind of statement. It is his own fault.
No, I mean, the fact that he didn't reach out to anybody.
Yes, okay,
that's what I mean. Like, it's because of his mentality that no one's there. People would be there for him if he let them know.
Right.
It's just his own stubbornness or something, I don't know what it is stopping himself from letting other people into this room.
Him being a man.
Actually, yeah. Like the toxic masculinity of the time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Fair.
Good point. Anything else we want to talk about from that episode?
No, I'd like to move on, please.
Okay, let's do it.
Because I hate what happens next episode.
Let's talk about it. Episode 8, Keep Riding. As Ruth grapples with major doubts about her path in life, Bash and Rhonda go on a spending spree, and Cherry and Carmen pick up a new side gig. Okay, there's actually a couple of things I want to talk about before we jump into this episode.
Okay.
First and foremost, let's talk about Cherry, because it hasn't really been brought up in the synopsis, but I think she had one of the best stories this all season.
100%.
Her story was actually one of the positives, I think, of this season. The stuff between her and Keith and the issue about, like, it's my body, I don't want to ruin it with pregnancy. Not to bring up a subject that might be a sore spot at this point, Jen. But
you say my body's going to be ruined?
No. But
you don't go into the ring every single night.
That's true.
Here's my question, though. Was that ever a concern for you? As were you always just like, yep, we're going to have kids and this is going to be the way it is and it's fine? Or did you ever struggle with that?
Well, I never wanted kids until I met Colin.
Okay.
So all my exes, I've never felt the connection where I'm like, yeah, I want to like recreate a life with you. Like, no, but Colin, I did. So I didn't care.
Right. Okay.
I could shoot up to 500 pounds after I give birth to my son, and I don't care.
Knock on wood.
Yeah,
that's fair. So let's talk. So, like, I'm curious because then with this issue, I'm sure it's an issue that a lot of women think about or go through, but it never gets talked about. Like this is the first time I've ever seen this kind of issue brought up in a mainstream way. The only other example I can think of, which weirdly does come back to wrestling somehow, is on My Name is Earl. Right, because they have an issue where Jamie Priestley finds her sister and her husband want to have a kid, but she doesn't want to give up her wrestling career.
Yeah, no, that's 100% a plot line. Fantastic.
So Jamie Priestley has the baby for her, which is great. Another great underrated show. But anyway, point being that I don't see it talked about a lot. So I thought it was really great for them to bring it up, and I thought it was cool for them to show that things changed. You know, the first 2 seasons, they were all gung-ho about having kids. And in this 3rd season, Cherry's like, I don't know if this is what I want anymore.
And this is probably what most women that are in committed relationships probably, in wrestling, your peak is probably when you're in your 30s, right? Like, this is when usually you've been wrestling for a decade or more, and then people are starting to actually really get a big following. You could be with WWE or whatever. Why would you want to give that up just to have a kid? You know what I mean? Like,
well, we brought it up. Ronda Rousey.
Well, yeah.
That was a huge thing this year because people were talking about how Ronda Rousey's going to leave or she's going to take off some time because she wants to start a family, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an issue you got to bring up. We talked about it in the past on these shows. In Japan, there was a mandatory retirement age for women's wrestling. Yeah. You know, like it's kind of crazy how big of a part of this is. But I thought they handled it really, really well. I like that Keith was not made to be
a bad guy.
He wasn't a bad guy.
Yeah.
He had his own perspective, and he's like, we need time to think about this.
Yeah. And that's what
we're not divorced. We're not broken up. We just need time.
He didn't leave her. He was just like, I just need to get away. Because you have to understand that even from a guy's perspective, and I know this is supposed to be the focus on women, I'm not trying to take this away from them.
Yeah, stop. No,
but I'm saying that if you, as a guy, this I can comment on. If I was a guy put in that situation and we said, okay, we're going to have kids, and then suddenly you're like, I don't think I want them anymore. I don't care who you are. If you have your mindset that you're going to have kids and someone suddenly tells you, I don't want them anymore, that's a huge thing. You're going to have to take some time in that situation to figure things out.
This is literally the Nikki and Cena incident, right? She wants kids. He never wanted kids. You know what I mean? And like, that was the big fight in their whole relationship. Finally, he proposed to her, said, you know what, I'll give you a kid. She starts to actually think about that. She's like, do I want to be with a man that's just, you know, giving me what I want, but doesn't want it too? And then they break up. You know what I mean?
Excellent point.
So,
excellent
And they were
point.
together for a very long time. And this is a very common issue with a lot of couples.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm so glad that they addressed it. So I just wanted to take a moment because it hasn't really been brought up in any of the main storyline points here on the IMDb summaries. And I thought it was one of the best, if not the best story in the entire season.
Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today.
Do we remember which episode her and Carmen kind of team up? I don't want to spoil what it is yet because I'd really like to address that.
Oh, the mud wrestling.
Okay, you can just outright say
yeah,
mud
that's
wrestling.
fine. That's fine.
I was trying to hide it, but fine. Just scream mud wrestling.
Wrestling's fine.
Has that happened yet? I didn't want to bring that up until that actually happened.
This is actually the episode.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so this entire review of this entire show, I've said the exact same thing. Wrestling should play a factor in the stories, and this is a perfect example of that. So, not Candy. Cherry. Cherry is feeling down. She's lost, quote unquote, her husband for the meantime. She's going through this emotional turmoil after speaking with the showgirl who said that I haven't had work. This is the only thing I can get after having my child. She goes into gambling, and it's slowly taking away her life. She is in debt. So what does Carmen do? It brings wrestling back in. Fuel your passion through this. Like, maybe this is not in-ring glamour storytelling crown, but it's still wrestling. Let's show them how it's done. And they put on a pretty damn good match in the mud wrestling. Why couldn't that have been a focal point in all of these stories? Like, have a turning point be a wrestling match.
Yeah.
It was kind of a fun thing that they did. I liked it.
I want to know what kind of mud they use.
Pudding. That was 100% pudding.
Like
it had to be.
It was the grossest looking thing. Like, I was like, I would not. You know what I mean?
would
Like,
not.
no, thank you. I'd rather just wrestle you outside of here.
Yeah, it's a fun part of that episode, and it was a cool little turning point. I wrapped up Cherry's gambling problem, so that was a good thing. One thing I do want to talk about for this episode is the opening.
Yes.
The time lapse.
Why did they do that?
You didn't like that?
No, I didn't. The show. What I
loved it. I
hated that.
I was just about to say that I can't decide whether I like that opening better or I like the opening from the first episode better. Because clearly the first episode has that's the best gag in the entire thing. But I love the time lapse thing, showing the passage of time and showing how it's getting to Ruth and she's going through the same thing over and over again. I liked it.
My husband didn't understand.
Oh, that time was going forward?
He was like, I don't know what's happening here. He's like, why is she just sitting there?
Amazing.
He's adorable, but sometimes.
Sometimes you just need to stop it. Let me explain.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So why didn't you like it?
No, how they portrayed it and how they did it, I loved. I didn't like that they did a time lapse. It just kind of pumped the brakes on their stories. Like at this point, it was build, and then it's just like, oh, by the way, fast forward, all this stuff happened. Now we're just going to tell you what happened in between. It just seemed like, I don't know if they knew how they were going to wrap it up. I don't know what could have happened behind the scenes. Just, it seemed like a cop-out. Like they didn't know where they were going, so they had to rewrite it by giving them a new progression. Like, what's a good example? It's like with the Yolanda and Artie, where they were building up, and after that real big moment of like they're broken up, it fast forwards, and then they give themselves a history of like they worked together, but they didn't talk with each other. Whereas like it just kind of seemed like a crutch. Where it's like now we can write their own history, so we can change the build of this relationship.
See, but I didn't feel like when they got into the story stuff that it had been that long of a time lapse. Like I thought it was maybe showing a time lapse of a few days or a week or something, but I didn't feel like there was this major thing where like all of a sudden all this stuff has happened that was kind of happened off screen. I didn't get that from the episode.
I guess it's just with it, the storyline being more about like building the matches. Like what they did in season 1, I loved. When they talk about the passage of time, it's through written cues. It's not like 2 years later, 5 years later, what have you. It's with somebody saying, yeah, it's now November. Where have you been? Like stuff, easily throwaway lines like that. This one it didn't serve a purpose. The passage of time wasn't felt until later. Where it's like with the previous episodes, the passage of time was felt immediately because of either where the characters would be or what the situation was. In previous episodes, it was to push the story forward. And in this season, it just seems like that major lapse of time was pushing it back.
See, I didn't feel like there was a major lapse in time. I felt like it was just a visual
a year and a half has passed. Or they had gone from 50 matches to 200 matches. So like months and months have gone from that point.
But I don't think that was necessarily that 50 match point that the episode starts on. I don't think it's from where we're following the story. I think it was more of a 50 matches that happened a while ago. So I feel like this passage of time started episodes ago, and it kind of shows up to the now point. If that
and that's
makes
even
sense.
more confusing.
I understand that, but I'm telling you that's how I saw it. What about you, Jen? Like, which way did you see it?
This is the first opening from since they said that they're going to be year round.
Yeah, afterwards they said, oh, that's right. They were extended the episode before. So they wouldn't have had 50 matches. They would have wrapped up very soon. So no, it would have been at that point. It wasn't about a backtrack and then push forward. It was at that moment.
Yeah, but that was 3 episodes ago. When they said that when Bash went heel and said, we're doing this regardless of what you guys think.
I thought it was that, like, they ended at that episode and then they started it. And then if they did it like that, the time lapse made sense to me. Right. Why they did it like this, because that's like a drag. Like, none of them really wanted to be there. And then it seemed like, you know what I mean? But
yeah. Okay. Well, I was just curious. That's just interesting how 3 people have 3 different interpretations
because
of that
it was
one.
not
because we
well
humans.
told.
Anything else we want to talk about for this episode? Keep riding.
No,
the name. No, I'm just kidding.
I can't remember. I can't remember what happened during this
Bash and
episode.
Rhonda, they go on their big spending spree.
They're helping out the casino now because it's fallen on hard times. So it's established that they're the reason. What is it? The Poseidon or the Rwanda is still open.
Yeah.
Oh, the show?
No, the casino itself.
Fantan. It's the Fantan Casino, not the Poseidon.
I don't know. It's a vague... Tell me there's not a casino named Poseidon.
I'm not saying that there isn't.
I don't know, man. It doesn't matter to me. They are the reason the casino is still open, because they're falling on hard times and ticket sales are down, which is why Sandy is totally on board with his showgirl BMX thing.
Which is a show I kind of want to watch.
Right? But I just think it's funny how the episode before or whatever, she's like, oh, I'm good with the books. Like, I'm a bookkeeper. And then she just lets him spend all this money.
To be fair, they have a lot more money.
But still, I wouldn't let my husband spend... If he just got all this money and he wanted to do BMX showgirls and pay all this extra money for that, I'd have been like,
It's a different situation, though.
It is.
They've already had money. Like, they've already been rich, but now they're just, like, super rich. They have just more money now, so...
It's the MC Hammer effect.
That's exactly it. That's right. Yeah. They're in the 2/3 version of the Behind the Music episode right now.
Sorry. This is the episode where she auditions as well for Justine's movie, right?
Yes.
Or is that the next episode?
I think that is this episode.
Because that's another thing to bring up is Sam has been gone for a long time.
No, it isn't. Ruth auditions in the next episode because she has to try and make it back in time to do the scene.
Oh, right. So this is just establishing that Sheila and her are going to be doing a scene at Bobby's upcoming fundraiser.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
If it's not in this episode, it's the next episode. But either way. Was that all?
That was all. I just wanted to bring that up. I just didn't know if it would happen yet.
All right. I'll move on to the next episode.
Which is when this happens. So, Ruth
the
goes
Libertines. You're going to follow format. The Libertines, episode 9. Ruth heads to LA for her big audition. Debbie helps Bobby take the Libertine ball to the next level. And Rhonda plots to rekindle Bash's interest. This is a big episode.
This is a lot of things. A lot of things.
Again, another bunch of stuff where things finally happen in this season. Now you may.
Okay, so Ruth goes to LA. She auditions. Justine doesn't like her for it, which is not personal. It's business and nothing there. Sam blows it way too far out of proportion. Everybody gets too emotional about everything. And then, that seems like a detriment. It seemed like how it should work is like, hey, we're friends. Just wanted to let you know. I'm sorry you didn't get the part. We're looking for something else. And then it's like, oh, well, thank you very much for telling it to me, to my face. Now let's have a good old time. But since it's Sam and Ruth, it doesn't end like that. No, it ends with one of them crying and one of them running away.
Yeah.
Guess who?
But I'm kind of glad it happened. Yeah. Because it means they're not together, which they shouldn't be. Those two do not belong together. And this episode is the perfect example of it. They give in to each other's feelings. They're like, yes, this is what we're going to be. And in one moment, one line tears it completely apart. Sam just saying, you didn't get the part. Ruth flips out and she's just like, oh God, this is, how could you do this? And Sam's just like, don't worry about it. She's like, you don't understand how important this was to me. And they leave. They don't care enough about one another to actually stay there and have a healthy relationship. So on one hand, when I saw them kiss and get together, I was like, damn you, this is not how it should be. And then when they broke, I was like, oh, thank God. Keep them as far away apart from each other on the relationship scale as possible. So it was a bittersweet moment for me.
Yes. And another thing about this scene is Sheila. Because Sheila, this actress is incredible. Like when she does the one woman performance, the monologue, I was wrapped up. Mm-hmm. Like it was so well done. And Ruth kind of feels, what's the word I want?
Jealous?
Yeah, I guess jealous. Yeah, I guess that would be the one. Yes, thank you. Overshadowed by Sheila.
Overshadowed, not outshadowed.
I gotcha.
Okay.
Overshadowed by Ruth, because Ruth kind of brought her into this, helped her feel more comfortable in the wrestling scene, which Ruth took to immediately. But now that Sheila wants to become acting, she took to that very quickly, which is what Ruth wanted ultimately. So having this kind of dynamic as well with Ruth and just not clear of who she is would have been far more interesting, I'm going back to it, if she was the booker.
Right.
Like if she was helping with Carmen create it, but then all of a sudden Sheila is taking the avenue that she liked while Ruth is trying to build on the one she has.
Yeah.
It could bring a new dynamic to her character instead of, like you said.
But Drew, we can't worry about that when she has to decide which penis she likes better.
Exactly. If she doesn't, when they're her
Don't shake your head at me, Jen. You know that is so true. Am I not right about that?
Kind of. But this was her struggle the whole season.
This is what I'm saying. Like, I mean, there's no time for interesting storylines that build characters when she has to figure out which man she has to choose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just getting back to my gripe about it.
Can I get back to mine now?
Yeah, feel free.
Because she's the booker with Carmen, then it's like she tries to build herself.
Yeah.
Where it's like she's building herself to something she never thought she would be, where she sees somebody building herself to what she wants.
Which we kind of see in the last episode as well, a little bit.
A little bit, but not to such an extreme that would have made for good television or good Netflix.
What did you think of the audition stuff and the Sam stuff with Ruth? What's your take on it, Jen?
I'm kind of glad that like she didn't get that part, because like I felt like that's what it was kind of building up to, is that she was choosing this over Glow, and I was kind of hoping it didn't work out.
That's so funny because I'm the exact opposite.
But you were hoping it did work out?
Yeah.
Because you want her out of the show.
No. I just
Bye, Allison Brie.
Bye, Felicia. Because I thought in season 4 they could do both.
Yeah.
And I just wanted her to do something.
But see, this thing is that she's been struggling with herself as an actress. So it made sense she didn't get it, because she's not confident anymore. Because Sheila's outshining her, and she took to that, and that really rattled her, and then she went to go do an audition and didn't get it.
I still think you could have played it even if she got the audition. Maybe the idea could be that Sam convinces Justine. Justine's like, she's not right for the part, but Sam's like, come on, I need this kid, please. Like, let's just do this as a favor to her. And it turns out she's not really as good as she thinks she is when she's on the set. And Justine's like, she's ruining my movie. Like, and then
that could still be happening.
Well, I mean, I hope it does, because God, that would be far more interesting than what they presented. And this idea that could you not imagine, like, they're on set and Sam's trying to kind of balance this out because he has feelings for Ruth, but he's also trying to build this relationship with his kid. And then ultimately he has to make a choice, right? I think that's a much more compelling story than Ruth not getting it and then them blowing up. I hope you're right. I hope that there's a change and she does get the part, or they do change their mind and she does go and make the movie. I think that's far more interesting in this idea of like her struggling with it that way, other than her coming back and just pouting.
I would much prefer if Sheila got the part.
Okay, sure, but then where do you go with that?
Then you put Alison Brie in Glow. You give her a new avenue to embrace. So her whole life at this point has been building to becoming an actress.
You're just not letting go of this Booker story, are you?
I'm not, because it works so well with her character. Okay. She has a problem saying...
Well, no. we're already over time, so if you're just going to say the same thing, make it quick.
I'm actually going to build it up to the final episode. So you know what? Let's do the final episode and I can come back to it.
Well, we haven't even talked about the ball yet.
Oh, son of a gun.
Well, and that's a big part of this.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like the hate crime.
Yeah, let's talk about the ball, and let's talk about all the things we liked or disliked about the show. I mean, I thought it was a great episode. I love the build up to it. There's a couple of moments specifically. I want to talk about Tex, because this was the moment that I was like, oh no, I really don't want this guy to be a jerk. And this entire time that they've been building towards this relationship with Debbie, I was like, I really don't want him to be a jerk. I really don't want him to be a jerk. And you have this moment where it's like, this is prime real estate for, bigoted guy from the South stereotype. And he's not a jerk. He's like, I had a nephew. He had AIDS. I understand. It's like, awesome. Great. Finally. This is what I'm hoping for. Then I'll get angry in episode 10. I love that moment. That was one of my favorite moments from the whole episode.
Yeah, because it helped develop other characters. Artie is her name?
Yeah, Artie.
Yeah. So like that was a good, because it kind of, she hasn't been comfortable of who she is. And then seeing this hate crime, that affects her, even though she's not openly gay.
It's a wake-up call.
It is a wake-up call. And this is probably why, what was her girlfriend's name? I'm really bad with names too.
Yolanda,
yeah. Why she was probably offended that she wasn't comfortable being out, because Yolanda had to deal with this stuff her whole life, and I can see how that would affect a couple.
You like Bobby?
I so love Bobby. And again, back to my thing of him having a more prominent role in Glow would maybe be the publicity that he would have gotten for his show. And then to see what the publicity got him, which was more attention, more eyeballs, but not the right eyeballs to see, would have been such an interesting avenue. But the problem I found with his avenue with it is it just doesn't have as much impact because we don't know too much about him. We do know him as a performer and we love him as a performer, but when it happens to him, it's terrible, but it doesn't have a lasting impact as it does with Artie and Yolanda.
Mm-hmm. He kind of has this weariness to him of like, it's all old hat for him.
Yes.
Like but
I wish we knew more about him as a character for that to really resonate.
Yeah, me too. I hope they bring him back for season 4. I do have a feeling that they will bring him back.
I don't know how they could.
And he was in a sphincter outfit, and we never saw that skit.
That was great. Yes.
Jen's bringing up the real issues.
I thought he was wearing a condom.
That's what I thought,
It could have been, but I thought it was a sphincter.
But yeah, I don't know. Forget that. Now, Jen is right on track here. Clearly, she knows what's up.
Golden opportunity, and they wasted it.
That's the real tragedy of season 3. No sphincter skit. This seems as good a time as any because I know it won't be brought up in the last episode. Let's talk about Sandy because we've kind of missed out of her entirely because she's just kind of a minor character, background character. I love Gina Davis to death. I think she's an incredible actress that doesn't get the credit. Holy cow, she's still looking good at her age. When she came out in that showgirl outfit, I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to say that
Please don't touch it.
I won't touch it. I'll just say that I loved her in it. She was great. God, I wish they'd given her more.
Yeah, she was an afterthought this whole season.
She didn't even know her name.
That's right.
No, exactly.
I know a lot of people's names, but I mean,
why couldn't she be like more integral to the actual Glow show itself? Like it's happening in her. Like she went to see it. What if she saw it and wanted to play a bigger role in it? Like maybe get some Vegas stars involved or something like that. Why? She felt so underutilized. Tiger Tamers.
I thought they were setting her up to be an antagonist.
Me too.
Like somebody to like, and maybe they were just like
playing, the big Ted Turner, the big Vince McMahon who gives you the money to do it.
Maybe they were playing with expectations on there, but I felt that by making Bash the big bad in this season, that left her with really nothing to do. Like there's 1 or 2 times where she says something to Debbie to help kind of guide her, but even then, it's kind of just there. It doesn't mean anything. And it's weird because when Kayla had watched up to the first 8 episodes before I started watching, so she was like, I don't like her character at all. And I was just like, oh, good, they're making her a heel. This is what I'm hoping for. And then when I saw it, I was like, I don't feel like she's a bad guy at all. I feel bad for her at certain points at times, but I never felt like she was doing anything bad.
Well, maybe she was supposed to be the bad character, but then Bash kind of
overshadowed
that from her.
Yeah.
Because he was.
Typical guy, right?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that was some sort of weird meta thing from the writers to be like, just like a man. I don't know. And I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying, I don't know if that's what they were doing. I've thought that maybe once or twice already during this season, but it is a great episode. Again, it's another episode where you feel like stuff really happened. So, I mean, if that's the second to last episode, whoa, that last episode is going to have to really knock the barn doors off of this whole thing.
This one's probably your favorite, wasn't it?
Yes.
I thought
I haven't said nothing.
Wow. Well, let's talk about A Very Glow Christmas, episode 10.
I'm going to tell you probably the dumbest reason why this is probably one of my favorite episodes.
It's not dumb if it's your reason.
I love Charles Dickens. So I love A Christmas Carol. And then when I saw them actually do a wrestling show about the Christmas Carol,
that was awesome.
I love this idea, and I want to see this on live TV this Christmas.
I need to see Undertaker chokeslam Scrooge into a grave.
Okay, so at some point, I'm going to sit down and show you Roddy Piper's A Christmas Carol.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing.
Of course it's a thing.
So I agree with you. The Christmas Carol adaptation of the Glow show, awesome. Mm-hmm. Absolutely phenomenal. Everything else surrounding it made me so angry, but I'll get to that. Drew, what were your thoughts on the episode overall?
Why could this was the episode where I started looking back and saying, why wasn't there more wrestling? Because with this Christmas Carol, it gave you a bunch of fun where everything else is just garbage. Yeah. So on the stage, you see Debbie with this comically oversized book reading to Bash, who was literally crying before it was wheeled out, and her telling the story of Charles. That was fun. And then when you go back, you're talking finances, relationship with Ruth, a threesome that didn't work out well with him.
Oh, shoot. That happened a couple episodes ago. We never even talked about it.
Well, that's because it all culminates in this episode. That's what I thought we were saving it for. But, behind the scenes is really thick, heavy, and deserves some thought. Whereas like, oh, by the way, here's a little treat for you guys while we go through this really serious stuff. Here's a little Christmas Carol and Debbie with a giant book. And I liked that. I like that juxtaposition.
Yeah.
I just wish it had more of that this season.
I know. I couldn't agree with you more. That stuff was awesome. I loved all that stuff.
I just like the scene where she's reading the book, and when she's done, she's lying. She's like, all right, then.
Yeah, and she's not even off stage yet. It's like, listen to me.
Goes back to talking.
So about this merger.
It was some good stuff. Do we want to quickly touch on the three-way?
Great moment for character development for Bash and Rhonda. I hope it plays more into next season, because him just outwardly saying he wants a family is just, that's a tease for just how much chaos is going to be coming up in the next episode. Well, what was that thing we watched a movie on this show at some point about somebody trying to start a family and it not working out, but I can't remember the movie.
It wasn't on this show.
So, crud.
It's on your.
So on our show, Ropes to Reels, was there a movie like that? It's probably, I can't even think of it now. But anyway, regardless, sorry.
I find it interesting that at the end of the second season, Bash is like, I'll get married. That'll fix my gayness.
But that's what people thought.
Yeah.
This is a very common thing that people probably still do now.
And in the third season, it's like, that didn't work. I'll have a kid. That'll fix my gayness.
And again, this is what people
Absolutely.
do. Elton John has a kid.
That's right. But, I mean, to be fair, he has that... He had it with his partner, though.
No, he did. Yeah, but
he didn't have a kid with the wife. He had a kid later
with the
on.
partner. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
but
so
like,
that
you know
was
what I
later
mean?
on.
Like,
but you're absolutely
would
right.
think-
It was something that was, especially back then, was common. It was just like, well, I have to hide this. It was a way to either hide it or a way to feel that they could get around it or to prove to themselves and other people, I'm not gay. Look, I've got a wife. I've got a kid. How could I possibly be gay? You're right, absolutely. And I'm just saying, I think it's interesting to see those stakes escalated. Mm-hmm. I'm really worried for Bash in season 4, guys, is what I'm saying.
Well, he owns a TV network. He's going to lose his mind.
It's going to be interesting.
He has to fight with the FCC about all this glow nonsense. It's not going to work out.
So you were going to say something, Jen?
I just want to say that the threesome scene was the only sex scene in this whole thing that made sense to me.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
I kind of felt like they were just like trying to get more of an adult audience, and they just threw in a bunch of scenes that didn't need to be there.
Okay. Alison Brie was topless for some reason.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the
kind of. My husband was like, "Oh, great, another sex scene." Like, I don't mind. No, not like he was kind of getting like, why?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I
something I want to tell you. Listen, producers out there listening, if there is a moment where your audience sitting there going, you know what? I'm bored of boobs. You've messed up.
There needs to be a story to the sex scenes. Like, don't just show me like five people doing it at the same time in a hotel.
Give me a reason.
Different. Yeah.
Give me a reason to show that prostitute's penis.
Exactly.
God, I forgot that was a thing.
Because it was barely there.
Whoa! Jen getting the claws out, taking shots.
However, according to Melrose, he used it properly.
Yeah. But like a lot of those didn't need to be there. Like the Debbie one with we knew she was doing all the valet guys. Did we need to see it?
I mean, kind of, because she had this look of going through the motions. Like she wasn't enjoying it.
Hers is one I could make an argument for. Some of the others, I could also make an argument. It's tough because on one hand, some of those do serve a purpose. The Yolanda Artie scene, I thought serves a purpose. Yeah, you could just say that they had, or you can tease it, but I also think it was important to show.
But they didn't do it correctly.
Go on.
I just feel like there was no. They should have done it maybe per episode. I feel like when you put a bunch of them in the same episode, they're just a sex scene.
You're specifically talking about that one episode where they pretty much opened the episode with just a bunch of sex.
Exactly. And then there was no development on it. Like,
I mean, I get why they did it. It was to show that everybody...
Was it?
Well, it's to show that everybody in the cast, with the exceptions of like Ruth and Sam, are involved with someone in a physical romantic relationship. And it's kind of meant to demonstrate the isolation that those two are feeling and that loneliness that those two are feeling. Now, I don't know if it was done well, I'm saying...
It wasn't done well.
It wasn't.
But I'm saying I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
I can see that's why
I thought it was like the HBO effect. Where they're like, we're allowed to show boobs, we're going to show them.
Because that was one of the first things Kayla said to me when she talked, because she'd seen it a couple episodes before I did. She said, did you remember there being more sex in the first and second season? Because there's a lot of it in this season. I didn't remember there being that much.
And there wasn't.
No, there wasn't. And my thing was, well, Game of Thrones is gone now. They have to push the butts quotient up.
But Game of Thrones makes sense because it's in a medieval type.
Yeah, those threads do not survive what they go through.
As we all know, people just walked around naked back in the medieval times.
I mean, they didn't have belts. Of course they did.
Yes, they did. They had chastity belts.
Oh, God.
This is what I'm saying.
You think chastity belts?
I'm saying, Jen, I don't think that argument holds a lot of weight. That it's a different time frame.
I think so.
In the 80s, I think people would be more likely to get naked and have a lot of more unprotected sex.
I mean, in Vegas, that's kind of all you're subjected to.
That's what I'm saying.
But I don't know. I just felt like it.
No, it was gratuitous without actually serving any purpose.
Like,
I agree. Like I said,
show the boobs if it makes a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Like I said, I don't mind the Debbie stuff. I didn't mind the Yolanda Artie stuff. And I understand why they did it in that season, but I agree. Here's the thing. If it's gratuitous enough for have 2 separate people come up to me and say, that was a lot, and 3 if you count your husband, that's probably a lot. Again, if somebody's sitting there going, I'm tired of seeing boobs and butts, you probably messed up somewhere, producers. That's a little too much.
All right, so we talked about Glow. We talked about the threesome. Go ahead with Tex.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about the way this thing ends. All right, so...
Like how both Jess and I just leaned back waiting for this.
This is the thing I think I hated the most about the entire season, aside from Ruth. Tex is brought in, and he's brought in as an okay guy. And he's meant to be kind of this alternative to all of these flings and one-night stands that Debbie is having. He's supposed to represent some stability and maybe something good happening for her. And it's supposed to tempt Debbie. This idea that, you know, maybe I'd be happy just being with Tex and just leaving this producer stuff behind. But she's conflicted because she feels it's important for her to be doing something as a producer, to taking those steps, to being productive. Because when she was being just a housewife and a mother, she was not satisfied doing that either. But then they have to bring in this television station, and they feel somehow Debbie has to turn her back on Tex. Quote unquote, she has to betray him. It has to be her that goes in and controls it. And because of this, they can't have Debbie look bad because she's one of the main characters. So let's make Tex become an asshole in the last episode for no reason whatsoever. It's just all of a sudden he's a jerk. Now all of a sudden he doesn't care about his wife. Now all of a sudden he thinks that women don't belong in business. All of a sudden. And it's purely for the purpose so that the audience won't turn on Debbie when she double crosses him.
Wouldn't it be far more interesting if she just turned on him?
Yes! Way more interesting! Or have her buy it. Or say, like, look, let me broker this. And then she comes to Bash and says, now I'm your boss.
Oh, the satisfaction would have been great.
So much better, right? And instead they're like, nope, we got to make him a jerk. Just so that she does. It's so infuriating. When I heard that they're like, oh, Tex is going to try to buy this TV station, I got super psyched because I'm like, yes, because they're going to buy the TV station and they're going to move Glow over there and then it can get back to being what it was more like in season 1 and 2 with the actual wrestling series. This is awesome. I love this. I love this. I love this. And then when they do the big reveal, I was like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Because I was so mad because it was like you had a good character here. You could have developed some stuff between those two. And instead, you just flushed it down the toilet completely. That's lazy writing. That is 100% lazy writing. Just like, oh, we got to get here and we got to here quick. And then the whole snowball effect that comes from it, I was so just ticked off at the end of this season about where everybody went. Obviously, the biggest one is Ruth. Like we said, she has this thing where she's like, I don't know if I'm coming back. Shut up. You're coming back. Well, nobody believes that.
It would have been so good, like, director, okay, actor hasn't worked out. Try a new avenue. That's when she said, you're the director. I'm like, oh, that's a cool dynamic. Like, you two having actual Stacys of power together is something for your characters we've never seen. Oh, okay, bye.
Or how much more interesting would it be if, again, she gets the part, but she doesn't tell Debbie. And then Debbie's like, I've got this great thing for you. I wasn't going to tell you until after Christmas. I'm going to make you director of Glow. And she's like, I'm taking this part. I have to leave the show for like a year. And then again, you have this very delicate relationship between Debbie and Ruth. And if you did your Booker idea where they were butting heads all season kind of thing, but they're still connecting together as friends again, now you have this huge thing that comes in and drives a wedge between the two of them. And just like, oh, now we're back to square one. We worked so hard, but we still have a long way to go. So much more satisfying than her just going, my choice between these two guys was too much for me. I have to go away now. And again, you do the same thing with Carmen, although Carmen has 100% reason to leave if she wants to.
Absolutely. Just a dissatisfied. She wants to be a wrestler. She doesn't want to be a director and actor. She is doing what she wants, but she's CM Punk. She's not satisfied with what's happening in the ring.
Well, it's because she was doing the same stuff every night. And that was Carlito's thing. He was like, the only way you're going to learn to be a better wrestler is if you wrestle more matches. And against, just doing the same match every time is not going to, that's my terrible Carlito accent. Anyway, my point is, but here's the thing. If Debbie had just said to her, no, it's okay, we're going to do the show now, we're going to do different matches now, there would be no need for her to go off. So again, you could have had Ruth's story be the one where she leaves and Carmen gets what she wants. She's like, okay, now I'm going to do it. And maybe she comes back and says, okay, but I want to have more control over this stuff. But instead you do that story with her and then you give nothing for Ruth, who's one of the main characters.
Yeah, I don't know. And I hate writing where it's like, if you would have just said one thing, it would have been fine. Like if she said, we have our own TV show, you can do what you want in wrestling, Carmen would have actually maybe stuck around. But just because she never said that one sentence, those 5 words, doing our own show, that's 4, sorry, then it would have, we're doing our own show, got it. Then it would have, you will at least have satisfaction if she still left.
Here's what I'll say about it, and this will be my last thought on it. When season 2 of Glow ended, I was excited because I thought there are so many possibilities here for this. I love everything they've done this season. I can't wait for season 3. My thoughts at the end of season 3 were, man, I'm glad that's over. I can't wait for season 4 because they need to fix this immediately. That was my thoughts. Jen, what did you think?
Same thing. Kind of. Like, I don't know, I just felt like these are issues that could have come up before the last 5 minutes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I just felt like, well, these would have been good issues for that whole episode while backstage. But then they were just like, oh, okay, bye. But I feel like this is kind of like a Netflix thing. They do these seasons of shows, and I feel like they're okay, but they just don't know where to go with them. Okay. I haven't found a...
Explore on that.
Well, because I haven't found a Netflix season that, after the first season that's amazing, that they've been more creative. Yeah,
they've kind of... they've wedged a wall with them. They don't actually take their premise and run with it further.
Yeah. Or they run with it too much, and then I feel like it's the same thing every season. Not for Glow. This is like another series kind of does that.
No. I understand what you're saying, and I'm trying to think if there are examples that I would say that maybe is not the case or is the case. I'm trying to think of a few.
But I haven't seen all Netflix shows.
True,
the ones
you're right.
I have seen, I'm just like, oh, well, they just don't really get much better. And usually the second season is either the good season or it's a crappy one. And then the third one's usually a pickup.
Yeah.
I haven't really felt that.
So, overall, Glow, season 3, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. How would we
I'm going middle.
Middle.
If I was not reviewing the show, I would not have finished it.
Ooh, that's actually good. I don't think because it took 5 episodes.
It
would still be on the back burner. I would have gone to something else at this point.
It's tough because it has wrestling, so I would watch it till the very end no matter what.
You also don't leave things unfinished.
I don't. I don't.
But you don't want to.
But I don't know that I can... I don't know if this is a jobber or if it's a mid-card for me, to be honest with you.
Will you be
I don't know if it's
too
down.
Wounded to watch season 4?
No.
That's good.
So I would say mid-card then. Like, I still...
A jobber would not make you want to come back.
You're true. You're true on this, yes. Okay, so I'll say also... So we're all agree mid-cards, thumbs in the middle.
Yeah.
It was not great. There were some good stuff in there, but God, it was just not enough to make it
missed
good.
It.
Yeah,
they could have pulled and... They're just like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty depressing way to end the episode, but I mean, it is what it is, right?
Keith came back. Keith came back like Santa Claus, and then there was a great reunion, and they talked about adoption.
Christmas should be.
It's Christmas. Yes.
Glow taught us the meaning of Christmas.
Do not make my favorite holiday be depressing.
Okay.
Anything else anybody wanted to talk about for Glow Season 3?
No, I'm good.
No, the sex scenes were out. I was.
You're hanging on those.
Right? Well, thank you for showing a guy's penis for once.
I think if there's anything we can take away from the season of Glow, that's it.
Because I was like, they're not going to show it, and then bam, there it was.
If you ever needed a shirt, Adam, bam, there it was with an arrow pointing down.
Well, I guess if there's nothing else then, Jen, why don't you take us home?
All right, well, I've been just Jenny. And that's been... my boy Adam, and Drew.
Hey.
And I guess we crushed it.
Yeah. Drew, high five.
Okay.
we go.
Whoa. No. Chaos reigns supreme.
No! Damn it!
This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything. Here's what you're missing out on right now over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.
I love all these women, but I think I was most excited and surprised that ODB was in this. I'm a huge ODB fan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched her stuff when she was in TNA.
No.
I loved ODB. I think if you had watched her stuff when she was on, you would have really liked her a lot.
I didn't watch that. My husband did.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch.
She got a huge reaction. People were loving ODB. And it makes me, I don't know if she's considering getting back in the ring, because mostly she does like a food truck, but she's she's really saying, like, oh, I like her now.
I like her now.
She's super
Mac and cheese?
Want more? Sign up now at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.